Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Ram Dass Fellowship live stream. And I hope you're having a fabulous Samhain and Day of the Dead. We are thrilled to come together again from around the world to deepen into the teachings of Ram Dass and Neem Karoli Baba with wisdom keepers of our time. I'm Jacqueline Dobrinska. I'm the Director of Community Outreach, Education, and Inclusion for Love, Serve, Remember Foundation. And you all are the Ram Dass Satsang, the Ram Dass community. And I say this every time, but community is so important, especially in these times. And spiritual community is this place that we go to feed our hearts and our souls. It's a place that we go to help us remember those deeper truths and practices, which are so easy to forget. So we come together to remind each other and be reminded. So that's what we're here doing tonight, just to listen, to learn, to be in heart space and soul space together. Before we begin tonight, a few things about how we're going to proceed. Our topic is Groundless and Boundless, Healing in Difficult Times. I think something a lot of us can relate to. We'll be together for about 75 minutes. We'll have some practice of meditation and a Dharma talk with Ralph De La Rosa. And then the second half-ish is a live audience Q&A. So at any time tonight, as you're listening, whatever platform you're on, just type in your question. And Gina is behind the scenes, and she will get the questions to us, and we will answer as many as we're able to this evening. JR is also behind the scenes helping us with the technology. So big shout out to those two. So with that, I invite you to settle into your space, to become present to what is here and now, and to recognize that we are entering into satsang, to sacred community with hundreds and even thousands of people from around the world. And I like to envision it as this web of souls connected in sort of the etheric realms through space and time, because this is available for rewatch. So from that space of heart connection, together we welcome Ralph De La Rosa. He's a teacher of human spirituality, and he's an international published author. He's also a trauma-focused therapist. He began practicing meditation in 1996 when he stumbled on Ram Dass's Cookbook for a Sacred Life, which is in the back of Be Here Now. He's also been a student of Amma's for 16 years, has studied Buddhism since 2005, and began teaching meditation in 2008. And he has a recent book. It's called Don't Tell Me to Relax, Emotional Resilience in the Age of Rage, Feels, and Freakouts. And I love that title. It was celebrated as one of the top 10 books of 2020 in Mindful magazine. So definitely check that out. So let's all give a big, heartfelt, etheric welcome to Ralph as we look at healing in difficult times. Welcome, Ralph.
Thank you so much, Jacqueline. Thank you. Thank you. It is such an honor to be here. I'm grateful to you. I'm grateful to this community. I'm grateful, of course, to Ram Dass and the lineage that he left behind, the lineage of the heart, the inner lineage, most of all. And to Raghu Marcus, I got to give a big shout out right there for setting this up and connecting us. Thank you all for being here. It is with gratitude that I have the privilege and the opportunity to offer teachings into this space. So before we go any further with more words, what I would like to do is to start with just a short practice. As Jackie said, we are settling into the space of Sangha, satsang, community, settling into the heart space, settling into this moment, this breath, right here, right now. And so if you would like to go ahead and just close your eyes for a moment, open-eyed practice is just fine too. You can just gaze down at the floor. If leaving your eyes open is better. And I'm going to give you my favorite trick for slowing down thoughts and opening up the space of the mind. Just begin by noticing that you're breathing, noticing that you are a breathing body. And every exhale that leaves your body I want you to try to let it go without pushing it out. Let it go without pushing it out. And then let there be space after the exhale, where you wait just a few seconds for the inhale. Next exhale comes and it fades into space. And please stay in that space. And then a very gentle inhale. I'm going to give you just 30 seconds to work with this. And I'll ask you to notice especially what happens in the space between breaths. You might notice a really nice downshift, a softening of mind and body. And if you're enjoying this, I have good news. You don't have to leave this mode of being right now in order to receive the words that come next. You can stay just as you are in this meditative space and listen in a meditative way. You can keep your breath nice and relaxed to facilitate that. You can stay right in the meditation experience as I move to sharing some words here. And we're going to do a little bit of a longer practice in just a little while here. So I feel like it's the biggest honor in the world to have the torch passed to me through the chain of teachers that come from Ramdas. And as Jackie said, that's really where it began for me. I grew up in a Christian home, and later in early adulthood, as I walked away from orthodoxy and religion and really started exploring psychedelics, really started becoming exposed to the notion of spirituality without necessarily a structure, a spirituality that belongs to us all, a spirituality that's inherent in our being, one that you don't have to earn. And the notion of divinity and really a relationship to divinity that really exists outside of what somebody else, what authority says that divinity is. And as I was getting into these ideas, somebody told me that Be Here Now was the Tripper's Bible. And on that recommendation, I checked it out. And yeah, Cookbook for a Sacred Life was really where I started cultivating sadhana, where I really started cultivating, I'll tell you the biggest two words in my life right now: daily practice. Daily practice, a daily love affair with myself, where no matter what's going on in my life, no matter what's going on in the news, no matter what, I sit down and I work with myself. I get to have a moment of relating directly from the heart space, and compassionately with myself. And that's really where it began for me, was in those back pages of Be Here Now, which back pages of publications usually aren't so auspicious, right? But in Be Here Now, they are. And I want to tell you a little bit about my story, because I think you might be able to relate to it in your own way. Because before I found Be Here Now, I had undiagnosed PTSD. And I began thinking about killing myself when I was 8 years old. And that was my daily affair, honestly, was fantasizing about how I would escape this mortal coil, basically, because of the bullying that I experienced, being neurodivergent, being just kind of gender weird. I don't even know if gender queer fits for me, or gender nonconforming, but just not, a traditional masculine male. And I found myself just really in the dark spaces in terms of my social life in school at a very young age. And then my dad walking out on my family when I was 4 years old, just totally ghosted us. And then me growing up in a house full of, my mom and my two sisters who had been traumatized by my dad. And then I reminded them of my dad. There was a lot of love there, but there was a lot of pain as well. And I found myself at 18, 19, exploring spirituality in this way, and really using it like a drug, using it as an escape. I hear this message that, you can slip out of the cycle of reincarnation. You can attain nirvana or enlightenment and not reincarnate. And that was actually my motivation at first for practicing, was if there's a way out of samsara, let's do that. Let's do whatever that takes. And I went on to join the Hare Krishnas, and I was an ashram devotee in Pacific Beach, California. Imagine being a Hindu devotee in San Diego. And that was also an escape. An escape. I just didn't want to work. I didn't want to deal with society. I wanted to drop fully out of the matrix, and I know that that's some of us too. I know that that's a lot of us, that we would prefer to find a sense of spirituality that helps us go around, helps us exchange the old cruddy identity, the one that's riddled with hangups and pains and unprocessed traumas of all kinds, and to find a way to just switch. And that's exactly what I tried to do. And that's what I tried to do when I later met my first teacher, Amma, who gave me the name Rajaram and gave me a mantra. And I traveled with her across the country. And, and I just thought, wow, now I can just go by this alternate name and wear all white and chant this mantra and do kirtan, and it's going to be all good, right? No, no, it wasn't all good at all. Soon enough, I found myself doing things like getting high on the weekends and then going to the ashram on the weekdays, coming down off of speed and going to satsang, literally. This is all 20 years ago. I was thinking today that so many of us, we hear this message of Sat Chit Ananda, right? That truth, existence, bliss, ever expanding, that's our true nature. And we think, yes, that is what I want. I want my life to be permeated by joy at all times. And that's a desire that makes a lot of sense. Do not get me wrong. I feel that completely, But I was thinking about this today. What if I were in a state of joy all the time? Imagine, it sounds pretty nice, right? But first of all, you would begin to lose the sense of what joy is. You would begin to forget that you're in a state of joy. Why? Because you have no contrast, nothing to compare it to. Second of all, it would actually start to get a little boring. Day in, day out, week after week, year after year, right? You would actually start to get a little bored. That's what human minds do, is we look for novelty. Our brain is hardwired to look for novelty. So if you were to live in bliss all the time right now, soon enough, you would get bored. And then bliss would be boredom. It wouldn't be bliss anymore, right? And so that's not a recipe, actually. Desiring positive vibes only. I just want to be. You can be in the compassion stream 100% all the time. You can be in the love stream 100% all the time. But here's a fun fact, or an unfun fact, if you will. Your brain is hardwired for all the things on the other end of the spectrum from joy: fear and anxiety and worry, pain and trouble and doubt. All of these things, they're literally part of your physical being that you are here to experience, right? So you're not going to escape. I'm sorry. But here's the good news. Here's the good news, right? If we were to escape, if we were to find that way to just make the switch and go to the joyful end of the spectrum and never, ever, ever walk on the shady side of the street ever again, we would be missing the biggest opportunity. We really would, because here's the rub. Here's the bold and audacious thing I'm going to tell you, that the trouble and pain, the uncertainty, the groundlessness, the fact that everything is changing, that things are being born and dying all the time, people in our lives dying all the time, we're getting sick all the time, or things falling apart in society, the divisiveness, the problems in our family, we're about to have Thanksgiving. Oh my God, what is it going to be like when I sit down next to X, Y, or Z, or maybe all three, right? Those issues in our lives can actually only be solved through one thing. And it's not going around it, it's going through it to get to the other side. And there's one thing that will work in terms of carrying you through it and coming out the other side better than how you went in. And that's compassion. That's compassion. Right? This is the groundlessness and boundlessness of this talk, right? That there's the groundless nature of our experience, that we're all holding traumas, that we've all been bruised by life, some more than others, but all of us in large or small ways. And some of us are going through that right now. But what that is an invitation to find and open the heart of compassion, the heart of love and kindness that already exists within you. It's right there. It's right there, already within you. And if you can find that sort of self-compassion and apply it directly, and I mean to the sensations of anxiety in your body, for example, to the feeling of fear or the feeling of heartbreak, if you can love those feelings and those experiences from the inside out, what begins to happen is you begin to heal. You begin to heal, you begin to learn from pain, you begin to grow your comfort zone so that you feel more malleable and cognitively and emotionally flexible with life. You become less afraid of things that once terrified you, and you learn, you expand, right? You expand your very being and what you are capable of working with and transforming, quite honestly. That's the invitation. The trouble and pain in our lives is actually a bait and switch. It seems like bad news. It seems awful. It seems like the end of the world. It's actually an invitation to go deeper with yourself, to go deeper with your spiritual practice, to go deeper into the heart, to really look for the compassion that belongs to you already. It's the only thing that will help you heal these troubles and calamities. And it is, frankly, I think, in these times, the only way that we will survive psychically everything that is going on, right? The heart of compassion, which is described as boundless in the Buddhist tradition, as immeasurable, as a Brahma Vihara, which gets translated as an immeasurable quality. It actually means the abode of the gods. In Buddhism, heaven is not a place you go to. Heaven is a state of mind that's available right here, right now. The heart of compassion cannot be overwhelmed. The heart of compassion cannot be infected by bad vibes or low vibrations. The heart of compassion itself, the very nature of it is to, just like if you've ever gone to an Amma program, say, come here, right? Just like Amma does, the hugging saint, they call her. And every single person that walks into the room, come here, let me hold you for a moment. Let me whisper mantras into your ear. Let me give you something that will help you to evolve and move forward and dissolve that which afflicts you. That's the promise. And that's a holistic approach to spiritual practice, is not having to avoid or go around anything, to be a brave warrior and say, I'm going to face everything that's going on in my life because I have found the light inside, that helps me to do it. Okay. So that's the idea here. Now we're going to put it into practice. Okay. So, these are great ideas, but they basically mean nothing if we can't have a legitimate experience of these things that I'm talking about, which are very, very lofty. Like I said, this is an audacious proclamation I'm making here. But I invite you to check this out, and then we'll have some space for Q&A, and you can literally tell me anything. You can give me a report on your practice. You can talk about something that's going on in your life, and I'll hold the space for that. So please settle in, just whatever makes sense for your body. In terms of alignment, just get comfortable. I like placing my hands where I can't fidget with them on either side of my lap. I think it's nice to sit up straight, but if you need to sit back on something, totally fine. You could also lie down to do this. But if you lie down, we're going to make a deal right now that you're not going to go to sleep. Gently close your eyes. I'm going to offer you the very thing that helped me move from spiritual bypassing of all my problems to begin using the trouble and pain in my life as a source of inspiration to go deeper. Okay, so return to that natural breath. Just noticing your body breathing in space. Exhale's very soft, just floating out of the body and fading into space. And then when you feel the body whisper to you that it's time to inhale, then gently shepherding the inhale in. Next exhale comes, and you just allow it to be what it is. Short or long, doesn't matter. And every time that space between breaths rolls around, just notice what it's like. As the exhale fades into space, it might be possible to soften the belly. It might be possible to let your seat melt into the floor. To let your face lose its shape entirely and surrender to gravity. It might be possible to sense calm. Or a burgeoning sense of clarity. It might even be possible to get curious about what your experience is right now. Curious in a way where you really want to be here, exploring this moment. And next, I'll ask you to pretend that your nose is actually right in the center of your chest, middle of your sternum, and like you're breathing right into the heart space and breathing out from the heart space. Breathe in and the heart swells. You breathe out, the heart empties. Okay. Just for this last minute of preparation, see if you can breathe all the way to the back of the heart, all the way to where your spine is, behind the heart. And let your attention flow with your breath all the way back there. This space is sometimes called Ziji, which means the depth of being, the beauty of being. So breathe into the Ziji space for just a few more breaths and then we'll move on. Okay. So bring to mind, and please don't go to the most difficult thing that's going on in your life, but chances are you came here with something in mind that you would like to bring some healing energy towards. Okay, but so think of a situation that's maybe irritating you, maybe worrying you a bit. Don't go to your deepest traumas, but something that's got you caught a bit. Maybe an argument with a friend or a partner. Some concern about the world. And play whatever mind movie you need to play right now about that situation. And let the feelings come. Let the feelings come and just put out the welcome mat for them. Allow it. Give up. Notice what it's like in the body right now. Notice the quality of your thoughts. And the emotions, the images. I want to point something out to you here. That this is one part of you that's present right now. Or maybe a few parts of you. But it's not the whole you. It's not possible. It's not the whole you. So be willing to feel this, be willing to stay here. Like Ram Dass talks about, getting into that observer mode where you simply step back a little bit from this part of you without pushing it away, without judging it as wrong. You simply step back and you breathe into the heart for a moment in the presence of this part of you, which is like a child, really, that needs your help. And then I want you to notice, how do you feel towards that part of you? How do you feel towards this child who needs your help right now? And if you notice that you're annoyed by this part of you, or you want them to go away, you're judging it, just simply ask your reaction, that first reaction to this part, to step aside. Ask the annoyance to step aside, or the judgment to step aside. Then let it step to the side. It's okay. And then check in with, how do you feel towards this part of you now? And it's very likely that you feel shut down or angry at this part, or something like that. That's normal. But I want you to once again ask your reactions to that part to simply move to the side and let you open some space so that you can help this part feel better. So take a few breaths into the heart here. And I want you to see if you can find a space inside where you can befriend this part of you that's worried, that's angry, that's hurt, whatever it is. Is there a place inside where you want to get to know this part of you? Maybe even have the desire to help. Whatever is going on, the image here is almost like the image I gave you of Amma. Can you hug this part? Can you hold them? Can you surround them with your love, like you would a troubled child? And you can absolutely fake this if you're not there. That's fine. Just imagine what it would be like if you could surround this part of you with boundless love, with boundless heart energy. You can even ask this part of you, what is it that you want me to know? Just listen for a little while. And then the last thing we'll ask inside is if this part is exhausted, tired of running around, tired of putting on a mask, tired of holding pain. I want you to let them know that you have a resting place for them where they can take a break for just a couple minutes. And that's right here in the ZG space that we began with, the space behind the heart. Just invite any parts of you that are sad, worried, angry, anxious, numb, dissociating, whatever it is, to just come into the heart space and lay their heads down. And we'll simply return to that nice, natural, spacious breathing. Just rest. Just rest. Just resting here. Everything begins to dissolve, dissolve, dissolve. That's enough now. And what we'll do is close this practice with 5 big, deep breaths together. But I want you to breathe in as big and as deep as any of the feelings that have been here today. Okay, so breathe bigger than them. Please begin. 5 big, deep breaths. Let out some sound with that exhale. You're on mute. You can make monkey noises if you want to. And one last for good measure, nice and big. Some of us in this circle may be accustomed to closing our practice with a bow. If so, let her rip. If not, all good. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. That was such a beautiful practice. It actually feels a little hard to come back to start into our Q&A section and to get back into that part of our mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, very deep. No. But we definitely have some questions coming in from our different platforms. Mm-hmm. And I just want to start by saying how much I appreciate hearing the story and hearing about the experience of spiritually bypassing, because we talk about it all the time, like as if it's out there, that none of us are actually doing it. And so it's really nice to just own that part of how we do that, use spirituality to not address these things. And I'm curious at some point to know how that shifted for you, how that awareness came about.
Yeah. I mean, I got a little long-winded and started running short on time, but yeah, so it's a cliffhanger. Y'all don't know how the story ended, except for I somehow ended up here with you.
And going through, which is it's hard to do sometimes, hard to face and go through for sure. It's so rewarding.
I could give you the Cliff Notes version right now if you like.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I bottomed out. I did spirituality and undiagnosed PTSD and depression and compensating with drug use until the drugs took over. And I ended up at the absolute bottom in a state-funded, basically an extension of a prison program that I talked my way into that let me stay there for 6 months, and not a nice drug rehab at all. And I was exposed to Buddhism. And while I love bhakti yoga, not until somebody said, sit down, no ritual, no incense, even just body, breath, mind, get to know yourself. Get to know yourself. Now I have an appreciation of bhakti yoga. Right? Now I have an appreciation of the devotional path and tantra and all of these nice things. But without a solid relationship to yourself, now that plus therapy and some psych meds that were appropriate for me for some time, and daily practice. Yeah.
It sounds like building that relationship to yourself, to whatever the word is that one might use for self, Atman, Brahma, God, whatever it is, that
Buddha nature, yeah. Which is what we just did. In the moment that you're wrapping your arms around an anxiety or a sad part or an angry part, in the moment that you're relating from the heart, you are in touch with that divine nature. That's it right there. Yeah.
It's more to it. I read something recently that was, a meme that was brilliant about why do we make it so difficult to think we need to get to God? That it's difficult to get to God, that, it's a breath away, it's a movement away, it's a presence away. And I really related to that in that moment of, as we did that practice, also like right there. And one of the things I love about Ram Dass, when you talked about Buddhism and Bhakti, is he teaches about the two, the insight and the devotion, and that the devotion brings the juiciness to the insight, and the insight, I almost feel like, brings your tail into the earth, grounds it. So
yeah. Neem Karolai Baba said, God is simple, everything else is complex. Right? Right. And that's, in a sense, what we were doing. We had the complexity of a difficult emotion and then the simplicity of the heart meeting that, right? Bringing the two together. Okay.
So I'm going to get to some of these questions. On Instagram, and she wrote something about the right way to be compassionate. What's the right way to be compassionate towards oneself? Is it just, I love myself and I'm sorry and I forgive you? Is there more? Can you expand on it?
Yeah. So the Buddha said that you yourself, as much as anybody else in the entire cosmos, deserves your own love and affection. And I love so much that the word affection often gets included in the translation of that scripture, because it points to, yes, we have these ideas of self-love, and some people look at self-love as a behavioral, like I'm practicing good self-care. I'm going to take a hot bath tonight, or I'm going to, journal in the morning. It's an activity, and that's great. But this word affection being in that verse speaks to, can we get down to a visceral sense? That's what affection is, right? It's a visceral, embodied sense of warmth, of caring, the energy of caring, and then can that self-love activity come from that? Or can you maybe boundary setting that you need to do in your life come from that, right? So there's the second thing I'll say about that, because this is a process, not an event. It's not a flip that we switch in terms of being compassionate to ourselves. And one thing that helps me a lot is to acknowledge the fact that all we have in this life really is trial and error. That's it. Like, we're all stumbling in the dark, and we have help, we have teachers, we have guides, but each of us, Amma says that there are as many spiritual paths as there are spiritual seekers. So in many ways, we have some clues, but we're kind of on our own. And it's a process of trial and error. So if you mess it up, if you fall down, if you wander a million miles away from your path, you just get right back on and you just keep going. And it's really staying with that beautiful intention to be compassionate towards yourself over time, where you will find that sweet spot where it clicks into place and you get it, and it starts to flow for you more and more.
As you were speaking, one of the words that kind of came to mind that is helpful in my journey is gentleness, to be gentle with myself, because I think that harsh voice can be so strong. And the idea of gentleness sort of shook me out of that harsh voice sometimes. So,
yeah, growth never really comes from harshness, not the lasting, kind that shifts your life. Not going to come from judgment. Yeah.
And then, most of us are taught, we think about our school systems and our workplaces and like the harshness and the punishment and and we were just before this, we were talking about when you make mistakes and how there's fear for so many of us in making mistakes of getting punished or reprimanded, or, how do we approach all of that with a sense of gentleness?
Mm-hmm.
Anna is also on Instagram. Hi, everyone on Instagram. And she asks, what are your ideas, insights, or perhaps a mantra affirmation? Tell yourself that there's a safe space available in the present moment for feeling emotions.
Well, one, I'll give you a very direct way to establish your practice as a safe space. And that is and you can start doing it right now, take deep breaths into your belly. Take deep breaths into your belly beneath the navel, but above the pubic bone, that like halfway point between the two. And keep breathing. Neuroscience has shown that when people are in a state of ease and even joy, they naturally start to belly breathe. And you can reverse engineer emotional states with the breath. And so right now, if you're belly breathing, what you're literally doing is you're sending signals of safety to your nervous system, right? And we're talking about a safe space for emotions, right? Because life is inherently dangerous, but if you can create a safe space for your emotions to come up in your practice, and then again, point of this whole gathering tonight is relating with compassion. What happens is you become more resilient. You become more resilient, which is the true safety, right? To be able to bounce back. Yeah. Good question.
Tim says, Ralph, thank you for your wonderful message and presentation. there seems to be so much fear, division, and separation in the world today. In your opinion, what is the best way to deal with this?
No pressure, right? Let's figure out the whole of divided society right here. Ram Dass live stream. Yeah. Words of Mother Teresa. If we have no peace, it's because we've forgotten that we belong to each other, right? I'm going to confess something right now, that during 2020, I got a little bit lost in the divisiveness as well. It becomes very easy in the heat of these very difficult times. It becomes very easy when you are inundated by the media. And my God, I watched a lot of Fox News and CNN last year just to check it out. I was in a house where I had cable TV for the first time as an adult, and I was like, well, this is what's happening. And watching both propaganda machines, both sides, fear mongering, both sides, terrible, and really driving this very crisis, this very perilous crisis that we're having. But here's the thing is, the Buddha taught that everything comes from causes and conditions, that your mind state, your beliefs, the way that you view the world, your subjective perception, none of us have access to the objective. We're all living in our subjective impressions, our stories about the world, not the actual thing. And so that your point of view is a result of what you've been exposed to. Right. And the very easy thing is, is if you've been heavily exposed to Fox or heavily exposed to CNN, you can see it in people. People walk around just talking, doing conversations, just talking headlines. And it's like, I know which news channel you watch, right? But people arrive at those sorts of conclusions as a result of the causes and conditions in their lives. And so I have arrived at my particular definition of what social justice is, or what the right way to be is, or what the right accurate view of the society or politics or the spiritual path even. I've arrived at my point of view as a result of what I've been exposed to. And somebody else may not have had the opportunity. Somebody else may have a totally different disposition. Somebody else may have a totally different mode of intellect that has led them down a different path. So the answer has to be compassion. The answer has to be, some sort of softening, because we're not going to go anywhere if things continue like this. We're just going to implode. As a society, we're going to have the dumbest civil war ever. I swear to God, presidential politics is literally screw you right now, right? Like with the Let's Go Brandon and et cetera. And it's literally like a playground argument. It's children fighting. What? We can't do this. We have to be the damn change. We have to find compassion. We have to soften. Now, if you cannot find compassion for, say, the uncle that sits across from you at the Thanksgiving dinner table that holds different views that you maybe even feel are an affront to who you are as a person, to your very identity. If you can't get to compassion, can you become curious? Curiosity is often easier. What is that like? What is that like, racist uncle, whoever? Or what is that like? Whatever pejorative you want to throw out for like a progressive, right? Like depending on what your stance is, right? What is that like for you? What do you care about? What are the values? Can you start asking some questions? What are the values that are driving that? What is it that you really want for society? What is it that you really want for families? What is it that you really want for whatever, right? Can you get to know what's underneath? Because underneath, we all share the same things. We all just want things to feel sane. We all want to feel safe. We all want peace. We actually all want harmony. it's just, we're being manipulated, man, for real.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for that.
Went on a little tangent, but yeah.
But no, the compassion and the curiosity being such key parts. There's this idea of, in a dominator culture, which is what we've all lived in for 2,000 years, that divisiveness is the only way that it really works. And that the way out of it is to learn how to become allies to each other. And, there's people in my life that are very close to me that are very much on the other side. And to say that and to do it are two very different things. And, right now the conversation is, I give them space for 2 minutes, they give me space for 2 minutes, and then we move on. But, around an issue, but it's progress. And I have to count it as progress. Mm-hmm. So I think those steps in those conversations and getting down to the values, because that's where the connection will happen, I think. Truly.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Up to each of us to have the conversations and to when I'm having the conversations, I can feel that, and it's how do I just take, allow for what is, take what I like, leave the rest.
The Dalai Lama said, if you really understood where somebody was coming from, if you truly were able to put yourself in their shoes, you would never be angry at another person again. Mm-hmm. Right. And so how do we get to that? Because that's empathy and that's compassion, right? And so how do we get there if we're feeling that, or we're shut down in some way? Curiosity. Curiosity is entry-level compassion, actually. It will lead you to compassion, and it's much more accessible in the heat of things. So, yeah.
And it's back to your thing earlier. It's trial and error right now because we are so entrenched with our heels in the earth around where we stand. I think all of us are. Yeah. There's Aaron on Facebook asking, trying to meet a child version of myself stuck in trauma. What do you recommend to do in meditation to make that contact?
Okay, so the question is, that Aaron is trying to be like a child, or trying to embody the traumatized child and
make contact with that younger version, the child version of themselves that's stuck in trauma.
Yeah. Well, one, you don't have to wait too long till somebody triggers that for you, especially if you're in an intimate relationship. It's going to happen, and you don't have to look necessarily for that child. You don't have to look for an image inside or the sense of there's a child present. Just look to whatever's coming up when you're upset, when life presses on you, when you want to flee the scene, or you feel like something's wrong with you and you start to cling in some way. Just look to what's coming up, the sensations in the body, the emotions that are there, the thoughts. Maybe you can kind of excavate your thoughts to find the belief underneath that's driving those thoughts, right? You don't really have to go looking for different parts of you. They're always right there. But if you really want to do the masterclass, and I suggest doing this with support, and I have lots of parts work meditations that do this on SoundCloud, on Insight Timer. Richard Schwartz, my mentor, who created internal family system psychotherapy, has tons of meditations, a new book called No Bad Parts that's really wonderful on how to do this. You can just start thinking of, take yourself back there. So just think of a memory of when something happened to you, and just walk yourself through that movie. And we call this a trailhead because it opens up a door, it opens up a path, right, into sometimes a very dark forest, which is why I say do this, with a therapist, or do this with some sort of support. But yeah, if you can begin to elicit that inner child by just thinking through the situations that activate them, that's an opportunity to practice the real compassion, again, masterclass level compassion.
And maybe that's the answer to this next question, just in some way as well. You talked earlier in the beginning around that light in each of us. And I know that sometimes that it's easier to access. And then there's like the dark night of the soul that can last for a really long time where that light feels so inaccessible. Is there specific practices, and maybe that the one you just mentioned was it, of how to go through that space?
It answers itself. You go through it. My childhood best friend died this year, in a very, very, very tragic and sad way. And God, I just loved that person so much. And the day that the news hit, the shock lasted just enough time for me to send out some emails, let my clients know I wasn't coming into work the next day, do some things. And then when the shock wore off, it was like, there's no processing this. Are you kidding me? There's no technique. I just got to feel it. And not be alone in it. And I literally just texted every single friend that I knew would hold space for me. And boy, they started showing up one after the other. It was kind of funny. I was just on the floor in my living room with friends calling me all night to make sure I was okay. But sometimes you just got to go through it and look for support. Look for, try to keep the things in your life, that the daily checklist of hydration, vegetables, sleep, meditation, right? Some movement, get the heart rate up just a little bit. Keep those things in check, but go through it. Let yourself feel it. Rainer Maria Rilke said, no feeling is final. Pema Chodron says the same thing too. Charles Bukowski said, if you're going through hell, keep going. Just keep going. And you will get to the end of it. You will get to the place where there can be some space between you and this very big thing. And you can start to apply some technique. You can start to process it a bit. When it's nuclear, let it be nuclear. That's part of our experience as beings.
Gosh, it's so well said. And there's that indoctrination of like, we have to fix it right away, instead of just listening and being with. And
yeah. I mean, heartbreak is so special, honestly, because when our hearts are broken, or when we've lost, our reference points and we feel lost in some way, we are that much closer to the soft spot inside, the space of tenderness. From that space of tenderness, we understand other people so much more intimately. In fact, Ram Dass said this, that grief bonds us deeper than any other experience, because there's something so vulnerable and intimate when we admit that we are in grief with each other, and in that space of heartbreak, you are that much further away from wanting to harm anybody, generally speaking, right? If you're really in touch with that tenderness, you're in touch with the preciousness of life and the things that matter. I mean, when my sister died 5 years ago, I remember I was living in Brooklyn and I went out to the deli down the street to get something. And I just had this sense of like, how are all of you people rushing around to shop and to go to the bar or whatever? Don't you know, like, life is just so much more than this, my God. And, so when we're really in the thick of it, we're in touch with what matters so much more. So it's okay. It's okay. It's even good.
There's, when you spoke about just now, pain softening, but it also seems that pain can harden too. And can you just speak into navigating those two spaces? Yeah. So where there is woundedness and vulnerability, we are hardwired to defend. And when we talk about hardening or armoring or putting on a mask or numbing out or whatever it is, we're talking about defense mechanisms. Mm-hmm. So first of all, let's take the pathology out of that, because what defense mechanism means is it's a strategy to keep myself safe. A strategy to keep myself safe, even if it's gone awry, even if the surface level appearance of it is quite distorted, even if it's a mess or not the nicest way to be, at its core, it has wisdom in it.
to want to stay safe, there's wisdom there. So first of all, can you begin to acknowledge that your defenses and your hardening are coming from something inside of you that thinks it's being very wise, right? Is actually fundamentally interested in your survival, psychic, literal, and otherwise. And so can you begin to talk to that part of you? Okay, can you say, if you're in a moment of hardening, can you begin to just notice, first of all, I'm hardening. And then take a look inside and maybe ask inside, what's going on? What are we afraid of? What's the pain underneath that's being defended? And then already you are kind of massaging loose that hardness. Okay.
Beautiful, beautiful. Caroline asks, in your view, is there such a thing as being healed from trauma, or is it more of a consistent and ongoing process?
Both. But yes, thank you for asking that question. Permanent healing is possible. It's called enlightenment, but which is, huge, but permanent healing is possible. It is what we are here to do. If you look at the way that life works, it's literally like the first 0 through 18, we're just getting hammered. It's so confusing. Things can be such a mess. And, we go through a process of getting so hurt or getting mixed up ideas from our caregivers or whatever it is. And then we spend the rest of our lives working that out, right? I'm here to tell you, it doesn't have to be the rest of your life. If you are exposed to the right inner technologies, and I think internal family systems therapy is like the gold standard. Bessel van der Kolk, who wrote The Body Keeps the Score, has come out and said that this is what he's using and all of his colleagues are using more than anything else, is this thing called parts work that we did a little bit of in that meditation. It is direct, spiritually informed way of getting to know your inner world and applying compassion in every arena that it is needed. And then when you open up the heart of compassion enough and you begin to trust that open heart of compassion, key to trust that you can be open-hearted and okay, which is a process. It takes a little bit to arrive there, but it's not 20 years on some psychoanalyst's couch, I'll tell you that much. When you start to begin to trust, and other parts of you have experienced enough healing to trust open heart, what starts to happen is that open heart begins to lead your life, and you make decisions based on love. You make decisions based on empathy, and your defensive parts, your wounded parts, even if they're not completely healed, begin to trust that. Begin to trust that. And that's what a fully healed existence looks like. And it'll continue from there, and things will come up. For me, I have no trauma left in my body. I can tell you the exact moment when I put it all down finally. And at the same time, do things piss me off? Hell yeah. Do things make me worried? Yeah. But there's not the residue of the past attached to it anymore. And so yes, the process continues, but this is my promise to you that it is possible to heal it all.
Butterfly Swim from YouTube asks, how does one go about doing everything out of seeing others in love and at the same time hold them accountable for trauma-causing behaviors and keeping yourself safe?
Yeah, great question. Great question. Love has boundaries. Love has boundaries. Compassion has boundaries. Compassion is not afraid to say no. Compassion is not afraid to say you need to leave, but it's the energy that you come from when you kick somebody out of your house, or you say, this conversation needs to end. Are you coming from reactivity, or are you coming from a sense of dignity, basically? Here's the thing. There's compassion and there's codependence, right? And what codependence is, by definition, is the inability to tolerate someone else's discomfort. So if somebody's in your face and they're off the hook and you need to ask them to go, for example, or you're in a relationship that you really need to leave for the sake of your own sanity and well-being, but you're afraid of what are they going to do? Or you're afraid of, but I will feel so guilty. That's codependence. Acknowledge that and calibrate to compassion. Because sometimes like my story, I had to hit rock bottom before I could wake up. And sometimes, holding a boundary with somebody, even if it sucks for them, that's just what they need to go through. We all need to go through what we are here to go through. And if you are trying to save somebody or soften the blow, that's not actually love. That's not actually love. Love, you can come from love and trust that even if it sucks for that person now, I pray that they will awaken to what they need to awaken to through that difficulty. Okay. This is a complex one, and I hope this helps in some small way.
A lot more to do on that for sure, and each one being very interesting, unique. Just one more question before we wrap up, because we're coming to our time. Ruben asks, what's the role of playfulness in practice?
So important. Oh my God, so important.
Right?
Yeah. I define play as a beautiful waste of time.
I like that definition.
It's an essential nutrient. You cannot have a full life without it. I'm literally sitting here at Keystone, Colorado, planning to snowboard, which is the dumbest thing I could possibly do with my time, ride a stick down a snowy hill, because it nourishes me and puts me in touch with that childlike spirit, which then when I go to sit with trauma survivors, I sit with the most horrible stories you've ever heard all day, 5 days a week. And I can do that because I meditate and I take really excellent care of myself, but two, I make sure I'm very, very serious about having fun. You got to do it. Play is the opposite of depression. Play is the opposite of anxiety. So important.
Thank you. And so really, thank you. A big thank you for bringing all of this wisdom and authenticity and vulnerability to this satsang. And it's such a gift, such a gift.
My pleasure.
Tell us where people can find you. And you have a workshop coming up.
Yeah. So one, I'll just say, a lot of these topics I talk about in my books, The Monkey is the Messenger and Don't Tell Me to Relax. And Don't Tell Me to Relax, there's a big one on saying no, on setting boundaries, navigating difficult conversations, a couple of chapters on that. And then, my website is just my name.com, ralphdelarosa.com. I'm all over Instagram. I'm all over the interwebs. And if you want to go further in, I think 3 weeks in a month, it's on my website. I think Gina might be putting up the link to this. There's a half-day self-loving kindness retreat. And it's going to be a deep day of practice, mostly focused on meditation, but there'll be talks, there'll be Q&A, there'll be a handout with that as well. So come back. Let's hang out. Let's practice some more. Let's keep talking about this. This is the realest conversation I've had in a week. So I really appreciate y'all, and I really appreciate just how rich these questions are. And once again, thank you so much, Jackie, for having me. Appreciate you.
Super nourishing. I feel nourished. I hope all of you out there feel nourished. So just a really big thank you, mutual gratitude. And also a big thank you to JR and Gina on the back end. We couldn't be doing this without them. And thank you to all of you for your great questions, for tuning in, for being present. If you want to support this financially, you can text SATSANG, SATSANG, to 91999. We didn't want to give everything up for free, and we also need to sustain. So if you're able to, that would be great. There'll also be a link in the chat of whatever you're coming from. And know that you can rewatch this and send it to your friends who weren't able to be here tonight. That link is going to be ramdas.org/livestream-replay. That'll be in the chat as well. And if you want to get notifications about opportunities like this, as well as our fellowship and affinity groups where we meet and have conversations face-to-face as a satsang, make sure you sign up at ramdas.org/fellowship. And just to let you know, at the end of the month, we're going to be releasing a Ram Dass-themed journal for contemplation. So you can journal about a lot of these things, as well as Words of Wisdom, which is a distillation of the last 5 decades of Ram Dass's life, containing powerful passages and quotes from a lot of his core teachings. So keep an eye out for that. We also have the virtual course library at ramdas.org/courses, where you can learn about conscious relationships and death and dying and meditation and mantra practices. So you can always check that out again. So again, so much gratitude for the opportunity to come together in spiritual community to talk about some really rich and real things in our lives and how to apply them. It is such a joy to do this. We look forward to seeing you next month. Ralph, we look forward to seeing you again soon. Much love, everyone.
Thank you.